Hello! In today's video I will be exploring 7 signs of why the genius marketing behind Aubrey Marcus' brand started to blend with his own personal beliefs. His story reminds me of the line often attributed to P.T. Barnum: "There is a sucker born every minute." In this case, the first and biggest sucker seems to be Aubrey himself. We will explore what are some telltale signs that he's starting buying his own hype. Why that is a bad sign for all of us, especially those who still follow and support him. Let's find out. I am Benjamin and welcome to the Florin Benjamin Show. Sign number 1. A childhood tune to stand out. Welcome back. From early on, it appears that ordinary effort wasn't the default currency in Aubrey Marcus' world. Exceptional effort was. His stepfather Steve Shubin and mother Katie were quietly developing what would become the flashlight, a taboo-shattering product that later dominated its niche. At the same time, visits with his biological father involved mystical discussions and, in Aubrey's words, rigorous self-scrutiny and non-stop competition to be the best at everything I could. The mixed signal to a young mind was clear enough. Audacity and excellence drew attention. Anything less risked fading into the background. That message crystallized when his father sent him, still a teenager, on a solo vision quest in the Sierra Nevada, where a shaman served him a powerful psychedelic brew. Many traditional lineages reserve such doses for adults well into their 20s, so the intensity of that rite hints at how strongly "go big" was imprinted on him. Put those pieces together and you have a formative environment that linked approval to standout performance, whether through taboo-breaking entrepreneurship or headline-worthy spiritual experience. It doesn't prove Aubrey was literally told be extraordinary or disappear, but the family example and his own recollections show that ordinary was not really positioned as the goal. Sign number 2. The never-ending hunt for the next peak. While some people might have been happy with an ordinary job, Marcus surely wasn't. His success in business may reinforce the idea that for him life must be extraordinary. To succeed like he has, one needs to be driven. After an early hangover supplement failed, Marcus put his last $20,000 into a new product he called AlphaBRAIN. It sold out in 24 hours once Joe Rogan mentioned on his show. Within 5 years, the company he built around it, Onnit, was the number 496 on the Inc. 5000. In 2021, Unilever acquired Onnit. The press release didn't list the price, but business outlets widely reported a 9-figure range. Marcus hailed the deal as a proof that total human optimization can go global. His business exit marks one of the first peaks in business life. He made it. Now he was rich. What next? Aubrey's drive for the extraordinary shows up in the speedrun he's made of psychedelics. In public interviews and blog posts, he speaks of over 20 years of plant medicine work, with dozens of ayahuasca nights, multiple 5-MeO DMT sessions, stacked darkness retreats, and regular ketamine therapy check-ins. A quick sweep of his own podcast and Soltara-style retreat promos suggests he averages one major ceremony every couple months, sometimes 2 in the same season. That's far heavier than the rate recommended by Amazonian curanderos, who typically space ayahuasca to 1 or 2 nights per year. Or by modern clinic standards, they taper ketamine after 6 guided doses. The contrast hasn't gone unnoticed in Austin wellness scene. Austin-based coach Amberly Sky, who often posts about plant medicine integration and sobriety, without naming him directly, warns on social media that local conscious leaders are stacking ceremonies like club nights, selling transcendence while skipping integration. She describes a culture where medicines become branding, not healing. The bigger is better appetite spills into his love life. Polyamory with Whitney Miller once offered headline-level novelty. When the chapter closed, he renamed it Plain Monogamy with Vailana, a sacred union. And when a third partner appeared, he coined Radical Monogamy, reshaping polyamory yet again, so the story stayed unprecedented. In each pivot, the ordinary option, quiet sobriety, quiet marriage, never seems to satisfy the brand's need for new altitude. Business success as a standalone event. You can put it on the individual being driven and wanting to escape poverty or to get rich. If you have plant medicines come into scene, you start to wonder. Used sparingly, plant medicines can illuminate blind spots and most likely heal. Taken as frequently as Aubrey reports and broadcasts as a proof on evolution, they risk becoming the very escapism traditional elders warn against. The perpetual relabeling of relationships, and you see a man who isn't just marketing breakthroughs, he's obliged to generate them, because steady ground would feel like silence to an audience trained to expect the next unforgettable peak. Sign number 3. Spinning everyday life into Galactic PR. When an Evolution of Sacred Union episode dropped from his podcasts, the language alone felt like it came from a silver-plated oracle rather than three people sorting out a complicating love triangle. Aubrey spoke of whispers from the goddess Isis nudging this constellation into being, of radical fidelity to the evolution of love, and of their union as a cosmic ontological upgrade for the collective. A tearful moment from Vailana became proof that outrageous love is breaking the borders of the old paradigm. Even Alana's arrival was framed as an initiation offered by the universe, so we can serve something bigger than ourselves. The vocabulary isn't reserved for special episodes. Scroll his Instagram captions or feeds and you'll see everyday milestones translated into the same way. A podcast taping becomes a messianic journey to expand planetary consciousness. A darkness retreat is an alchemical crucible. Critiques are medicine. Payment plans turn into portals of commitment. And an upcoming launch promises cosmic impact for all beings in all timelines. Words like these do two things at once. First, they inflate ordinary experiences, jealousy, business pivots, hurt feelings, discussions into epic mythology, making every twist feels heroically preordained. Second, they tighten the circle. If you adopt the code, you signal insider status. If you call polyamory just polyamory, you sound as if you don't get it. Over time, the vocabulary itself becomes a loyalty test. What does that say about Aubrey? At minimum, that he is a gifted rhetorician who learned to transmute Roma life into narrative gold. At maximum, it suggests a grandiose self-image. The belief that personal choices, changing partners, selling supplements, scheduling another retreat, filming a podcast, are evidence of a mythic destiny the rest of us should witness. When a leader can describe a Wednesday without reaching for cosmic metaphors, it points less to enlightenment and more to a need for perpetual significance. The same impulse that drives him from one peak experience to the next. Sign number 4. Imbalances and disclosure controversy. Aubrey and Vailana spent 2 full years selling their marriage as the model of the one-to-one devotion. Look back to mid-2023, the YouTube interview Building Sacred Union Experiencing the Full F-Yes frames their bond as the ultimate monogamous upgrade after Aubrey polyamory era. He tells host Lila Martin that committing to one woman, one legacy, is the highest path he can walk. The title card even markets the talk as a template for viewers who want a partner that fully chooses you. That message carried straight into their paid ecosystem. FitForService funnels of 2024 promoted Sacred Union breakout calls, while Instagram ads for women's circles urge members to call in the man who will devote himself to one queen. Men's coaching reels echoed the same monogamy ideal. Some clients spent $3,000, $4,000 on trimester packages, and several posted afterwards that they felt blindsided when the triad was revealed. So we paid to learn Sacred Union monogamy while they were already dating a third person. The mismatch matters because the power gap inside the new radical monogamy is already steep. When Aubrey married Vailana in 2020s, he was a newly minted multimillionaire with 1 million plus followers. She was a sound healer, still building her own platform. Alana Bell is younger still and entered the public eye through Aubrey's channels. Aubrey controls the podcast, the retreats, the revenue. His partner's stories reach the world mainly through his feed. Consent may be genuine, but it is negotiated in a room he owns. Critics now ask whether the triad began long before the May 2025 reveal. Burning Man attendees posted last year that Aubrey and Vailana were already talking about opening their marriage in a 2024 workshop. If true, paying clients were learning monogamy lessons from teachers who were privately doing something very different. At minimum, the sequence shows a poor disclosure. At worst, it suggests a bait and switch that leverages Aubrey's financial clout and media reach. Sell Sacred Union 1.0 to the crowd, quietly test version 2.0, then rebrand the upgrade as a cosmic breakthrough once the narrative is airtight. It could be argued that one partner controls the money, the microphone, and even the language. Holding back the full story turns an already uneven relationship into outright control, and leaves paying followers wondering what they were really supposed to copy. Sign number 5. The description of the episodes, an evolution of the Sacred Union, and the follow-up, who is Marcus Aubrey really, do not reflect openness, spiritual maturity, and accountability. The language Aubrey uses to introduce the trial tells its own story. He starts it by calling it the most controversial podcast we have ever released, priming listeners to expect a shock and awe revelation. Then he explains that comments were removed for their own safety, which both blocks public pushback critics as potential threats. Alana, the youngest and the least known member of the trio, is described as a 28 years old powerful woman and a teacher to us in many ways. On paper, that label flattens the obvious power gap. Aubrey still owns everything, but the wording makes it sound as she arrives on equal footing. Next comes a string of perhaps lines, listing possible reasons people were upset. Disappointment that Aubrey wasn't the reformed polyamory hero, confusion over missing lovers at the table, or society clinging to monogamy. Each guest deflects blame outward. None admits the simpler issues, that many followers paid for sacred union monogamy coaching while the marriage was already opening behind the scenes. None talks about the power dynamics and the integrity of or full ownership. He even concedes there were private details left out of the narrative, then moves on without filling those gaps. Criticism is reframed as vitriol from the people who won't let love evolve, while spiritual whispers from the cosmos are cited as guidance. Yet any hint that he claimed divine approval is blamed on audience misinterpretation. Finally, the description pivots into a glowing plug for Marc Gafni and his new book. Put together, all this mythologizes the relationship, manages perception by heading off objections, and monetizes the moment, all before a listener even presses play. It reveals a storyteller more focused on framing the narrative than on offering clear, complete facts about how and when, answering other relevant questions wanted by their audience. How this episode should have been described and titled: How Our Marriage Became Three, What Really Happened, Why We Hid It, and What We Owe You. And the description something like this. Over the past year, while we were still teaching sacred union as a monogamy model, our marriage quietly changed. It expanded to include our close friend, Alana Bill. Let me lay out the timeline we never shared. We first admitted our feelings for Alana in June 2024. By August 2024, we'd agreed, just between the three of us, to explore a committed triad. From September 2024 through February 2025, we kept leading monogamy-focused workshops, even as we worked through jealousy and logistics behind the scenes. In March 2025, we told our inner circle friends and mentors, but not the wider community. And in May 2025, we finally sat down to record the episode that made everything public. The gap between what we were teaching and how we were actually living left some of you confused and misled, especially those who bought our Sacred Union courses or the men's and women's circles during that time. We own that. If the curriculum you purchased doesn't match the reality you later discovered, email support. We'll arrange a full or partial refund, no questions asked. Why did we wait to go public? First, we wanted time to see if the triad was truly stable. Second, we feared internet blowback, and judging by the headlines, that fear was real. And finally, we hesitated. We were trying to square our promises with new feelings. None of these reasons erased the mismatch, the confusion, so to anyone who trusted us to model one-to-one devotion, we're sorry. This episode is our story, not a template. We talk about the real conflicts and power imbalances, challenges, age, money, platform size, and we're doing this episode to address them. Shared finances, rotating mic time, outside mentors who aren't on our payroll. We don't claim cosmic permission or divine whispers. We made the human decisions and we're still learning. Comment policy. Comments stay on. If you spot hate speech or personal threats, flag them and we'll remove those specific posts. Otherwise, the floor is yours. Ask the hard questions. We'll come back in a live stream next month to answer them. Thank you for holding us accountable while we figure this out in public. Aubrey, Vailana, and Alana. Now that's an improvement. The same pattern continues on his follow-up podcast, Who is Aubrey Marcus Really? That he filmed with ex-fiancée Caitlin Howe. This episode plays like narrative control, guiding viewers to the brand spin instead of offering a genuine reckoning. Here's what the episode description really tells us, and just as importantly, what it doesn't. First, notice the grand language. Words like profoundly alchemical, calcination, and all the bullshit parts burn away. The phrasing makes the last month sound like a cosmic rite of passage, but it never gives us a simpler timeline or a clear list of mistakes. We don't learn where the thread actually started, how long the audience was left in the dark. Second, look at the apology, the line, "I'm deeply sorry for everyone who has been hurt by people who didn't have the courage to know the truth." Sound heartfelt, but it points out the finger back at the unnamed people who lacked courage. It never states the obvious. We were still selling monogamous courses while living something else, or we turned comments off and that broke trust. Third, pay attention to how criticism is framed. Every reaction, anger, confusion, disappointment is relabeled as medicine. That's poetic, but it treats valid questions as fuel for his personal growth instead of feedback that deserves a straight answer. In short, plenty of mystical drama, but very little plain-spoken accountability. Sign number 6. Choosing a controversial guru. If you want to understand a public figure, look at the teachers they elevate. Aubrey Marcus' go-to mentors these days is Dr. Marc Gafni, the philosopher who coined many of the phrases Aubrey now repeats, from the outrageous love to radical monogamy. But Gafni's resume carries heavy baggage. For decades, multiple women, some teenagers at that time, have accused him of sexual misconduct. Those allegations pushed him out of rabbinic positions in Israel in the early 2000s. And a 2016 New York Times investigation prompted one-time backers such as Whole Foods co-founder John Mackey to sever ties. Aubrey knows this history, the headlines are easy to find. Yet he still introduces Gafni as our esteemed teacher, gives him airtime on the podcasts, and even uses his cosmic vocabulary to frame the triad as an evolutionary milestone. He says it's their mentor. That choice matters. Either Aubrey failed the basic diligence tests, or he decided the grand narrative Gafni offers is worth the risk of attaching his brand to a man many in the spiritual world consider discredited. In both cases, it shows a leader willing to prioritize mythic sweep over clear ethical options and optics, and it leaves followers wondering what others' red flags might get waved through because they serve the storyline. Sign number 7. I unsubscribed from his podcast maybe half a year ago or 1 year ago, I don't know exactly. I know, my personal opinion shouldn't be the standard for anyone else's choices, but it might still be worth something. When I first discovered Aubrey Marcus, I appreciated his openness about substance use, relationships, and life in general. It felt like a breath of fresh air. I enjoyed the guests on his podcast and the carefully curated image he's presented, the inspiring lifestyle, the accomplished people around him. It made me feel like one day I could live like him and be that cool and evolved and surrounded by great people. Then, for reasons I can't fully explain, intuition perhaps, I found him harder to follow. It felt as if he were living in his head rather than speaking directly to me. I sensed something inauthentic and decided to unsubscribe. That might sound trivial, but our internal compass, even when we don't fully understand it, it can be a powerful tool for discernment. It's time for conclusions. Let's put the whole picture into one straight line story and ask, Does the evidence show that Aubrey Marcus has started believing his own marketing? From the beginning, bigger is better has been the governing rule. As a kid, he watched a sex toy empire being built in his living room and heard his father preach mystical excellence. Ordinary effort wasn't simply on the menu. As an adult, he repeated the pattern. He turned a failed hangover pill into AlphaBRAIN, sold Onnit for a rumored 9-figure sum, and almost the moment the ink was dry, went searching for the next summit. The same need for escalation spills into every other arena. He reaches for psychedelics far more often than traditional clinical norms recommend. And he keeps rebranding his love life, so it always sounds like uncharted territory. First polyamory, then sacred union, then radical monogamy. Stability seems to bore him. Novelty itself becomes the product. Language keeps the balloon afloat. A routine livestream is billed as a cosmic ontological upgrade, while criticism is medicine that feeds his heroic arc. The vocabulary does more to polish the meat than to communicate plainly. When hype collides with hard facts, hype wins. Monogamy courses kept selling while the marriage was already a triad, most likely, and only after a carefully produced reveal did the audience learn the truth. Even his choice of mentor, like Marc Gafni, a teacher trailed by long public misconduct claims, shows a preference for grand narrative over clean optics. Because Gafni supplies the epic philosophy that keeps the legend shining. The outside world is noticing. Long-time listeners like me describe inauthentic vibe and so unsubscribe. A real-time indicator that performance is overtaking honesty. Put all of that together and it strongly suggests Aubrey now lives inside the story he created. Could a skeptic argue he is just an aggressive marketer who still knows where the line is? Sure. We don't have his private emails or balance sheets or see directly his thoughts. But every time objective reality pushes back, the narrative expands instead of adjusts, and that's a behavior of someone who believes his own hype. Why should followers care? When hype outrun facts, you risk paying for programs that don't match the teacher's actual practice. Mythic framing can conceal real-world gaps, and if every critic is labeled medicine, genuine concerns rarely get answered. No real accountability, no real reflection, and no real answers mean no real leader. The bottom line is persuasive, even if not airtight. Aubrey Marcus seems to be living inside the legend he sells. Before you invest attention, money, or trust, ask yourself whether you're signing for a transparent journey or helping finance the next chapter of someone else's self-mythology. No matter what you believe, I hope love, peace, and kindness find you. Before you go, if you like this video, feel free to check out this video in which I speak about Andrew Tate. I go into a deep dive about Andrew Tate and how he got to be so famous. Until next time, Benjamin.
Walking streets, feel the breeze. Lost in dreams, time can freeze. City sleeps, we're awake in this world.